know what? I have no reason to tolerate anyone calling me a liar, much less you. Boom! And she hangs up on me.
Wherever love goes, there is also misery. It's no mystery.
Hey guys, it's Holly, and in today's video, I'm going to tell you all about a tumultuous relationship I had with a girl we're going to call Lulu. From meeting her to the point where I realized it was time to break up with her. I was checking out my demographics the other day, and a lot of you guys are really young, so I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, you can save yourself some of the anguish that I put myself through by kind of just going with the flow and not really thinking about the decisions I was making. So let's kick off the story where it all started, on my ex-boyfriend's couch. Well, he was my boyfriend at the time, and he was roommates with her boyfriend at the time. I was fresh out of college when I met her, about 22 years old, just starting to work in radio, scraping to get by. I remember going over to my boyfriend's apartment at the time and seeing her just sitting on the couch watching a show. And she seemed like a really sweet girl, very beautiful, but she had kind of like an underlying sadness in her eyes. Lulu's boyfriend, we're gonna call him Raul. He was a club promoter, so his job was all about nightlife, and this ended up causing a lot of problems in their relationship. I wouldn't say him working as a promoter was the problem. Him not being a good boyfriend to her, let's just put it that way. Their relationship was up and down all the time, and I'm not here to judge. Let's be honest, my relationship was kind of a mess as well. But it was definitely hard as a friend to see her go through so much stuff and then see her get right back with him and kind of realized that it was a vicious circle. The worst was getting wrapped up in the drama without wanting to be, and I'm going to give you a few examples. One of the first ones was when they were on a break, and she called me sobbing, and I was like, what's going on? Where are you? And she said, I'm parked outside of their apartment. So I rushed over right after work, and I find her in her car completely bewildered, looking at pictures of him kissing another girl. I'm like, dude, how did this happen? And she's like, well, I went into the apartment, I found his camera, and I went through the pictures and found this. And I'm like, wait, I thought you guys were broken up. And she's like, yeah, but I kept a key. I'm like, okay, so you saw the picture. Why do you have his camera in your car? And she's like, I have to download them on my computer so I can send them to him and prove that I saw them. I guess the whole deny till you can deny no longer was working for him. I would think that just seeing the picture would be enough and you can do away with the person completely, but no, apparently she had to prove that she had it. So amid all this hullabaloo, he calls her, he's home, and he's asking her where she is and where his digital camera is. And I'm sitting there like, oh my goodness, like please don't involve me in this. Meanwhile, she's telling him off and telling him she hates him and she never wants to see him again. And when they hang up, she's like, Holly, you and I didn't see each other today, okay? And I'm like, I don't see the need to lie. Like, I'm just gonna tell him that I had nothing to do with you going into the apartment. She's like, look, if you want me to keep you out of this, just tell him you didn't see me today. Okay. And then like 2 minutes later, I get a call from my boyfriend and he's like, where are you? How did Lise get in the house? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know. Deny, deny, deny. Clearly at that point I should have said I'm not willing to lie about this and just nipped it in the bud, but I was young and stupid. The worst thing of all is that I ended up getting wrapped up in it anyway because she never admitted to Raul that she had her own key, and therefore he assumed that the only other person with a key that would let her in would be me. And she was a lot happier throwing me under the bus than admitting to him that she had made a copy of the key before returning it to him. A few days later, they got back together anyway. And this was a vicious cycle. And I feel like I was especially patient with her because getting to know her more and more, I realized that her childhood had been kind of insane and she had gone through a lot of things that I just couldn't even imagine. One day she was telling me about her mom's leg and how she was gonna have to get it operated on and how it had already been operated on like 7 times. And she showed me a really, really graphic picture and I was just like, whoa, what happened? And she says, well, when I was young, my parents got divorced and my dad just couldn't bear the idea of seeing my mom with someone else. And I'm like, oh, so what happened? And she goes, my mom was really, really beautiful, Holly. So he decided to send someone to run her over with a bus. What? Apparently the guy driving the bus did not manage to fully run over her, but he did catch her leg and completely mangle it. I'm sitting there in shock, in disbelief, completely at a loss for words. And she says, my mom was really, really beautiful, Holly. Imagine growing up with that example and that interpretation of what love is. Wanting someone for yourself to the point where you don't want them to exist anymore if they can't be with you. I cannot even imagine. But I did see this pattern sort of repeating itself in her life. Her being jealous with her boyfriend and her boyfriend being jealous with her. And here's the thing. She was so paranoid about not wanting to appear like she would possibly even be remotely looking like someone that might even be thinking about cheating, that she would not even look at waiters when we'd go out to eat. They'd be like friendly, hey, what can I get for you to drink? And she'd be like, a Coke. I think one time she made the mistake of telling a trainer at the gym that she would be interested in getting, free training sessions, and the guy ended up getting her number. Well, apparently he texted her when she was with Raul, and all hell broke loose. He made her call him right then and there to prove that this wasn't someone she was cheating on him with. And again, these are all stories I heard from her, but it was just so much drama. I honestly didn't know what to do with all the information. And it was really weird because she seemed to always know what he was up to. One time she called me super distraught, telling me that she knew that he was going to go to Vegas with a girl. And I'm like, how do you know? And she's like, I just know. And I'm like, you can't just know things like this. And she's like, okay, well, I have his voicemail password. I was like, oh, wow, this is how she knows everything that's going on in his life, and she catches him in all of his lies. This is back in the days when people actually use voicemail more than they do today. Basically, all you had to do was call the person's number, and if they didn't answer, then you push star, and then you push the code, and then it would let you check the voicemail from a remote phone. And so she actually showed me the phone call of this girl telling him like, oh, well, I'm gonna go get my nails done, and then I'll be ready to go. The flight's at 4, I think you said, right? Oh, I cannot even imagine hearing that voicemail knowing that it was sent to my boyfriend. Not fun feelings to have, but again, why are you there? The craziest thing was she was miserable with him, but she was miserable without him. I remember going on a trip to Big Bear with another friend, and we were up in the mountains. It was such a beautiful day. It was snowing. We were so excited. We were going to go snowboarding the next day. And all of a sudden I turn around and she's crying in the back seat. And I'm like, Lulu, what's wrong? And she said she was feeling nostalgic because apparently Raul had bought a cabin there and she was hoping that they would go together, and now that wasn't going to be possible. And it almost ruined her entire trip. Like, finally we were able to get her to shake out of it the next day, but like, seriously, so he has a cabin here, so what? Another weird thing, and it's coming to mind because it happened on that trip, was that she would lie about the most insignificant things that did not matter at all. For example, her age. I remember signing the release forms to go down the ski slopes, and they had a slot that said age, and then they asked for your exact birth date. So she put like 26, I think I was about 24 at the time, and then I specifically remember her filling in the day, the month, and then sitting there trying to figure out what year it would be if she was actually the age that she had written down. And I knew it wasn't true. I mean, first of all, if you listen to all of her stories, she had already done so many things in life. She had been like a professional chef for a few years and then a professional interior designer, and she had owned her own bakery. And it's like, you can't do all that by 24. And even if you could, I knew it wasn't true because I had already seen her license. Again, who cares? It's just a number. Now, I don't mean to say that this friendship was all negative experiences. Obviously, I wouldn't have been there if it were. There was a lot of times when we just enjoyed life together. I remember finally on the slopes, we got her to snap out of it. We were just cruising around, laughing, having so much fun. And there were moments like that. And when I saw her in those moments, it was such a light at the end of the tunnel. It was like, okay, she can be happy. She can enjoy her life. She can forget about all these superfluous things. This is who she's really meant to be. This is her essence, without getting crowded over by all of those other crazy things going on in her head. Unfortunately, they were few and far between. So here's the thing, having inconsistencies in your love life, that doesn't make you a bad friend. But what I didn't realize is that she wasn't really being a good friend the entire time. And some of the things I didn't find out about until years later, but they still seemed kind of awkward at the time. And here's my classic example of that, and this was one of many. We were meeting up at my favorite sushi. We were gonna meet up with two friends. One of them was a guy that I kind of liked. We're gonna call him Leon. So I remember I was heading out to the sushi place and Leon had called me just to see where I was at, how I was doing, etc. And I told him I was on Olympic and there was a lot of traffic, but that I anticipated arriving in about 20 minutes. Now, that same day, my ex-boyfriend had called me and he basically said, if this is really over between you and me, can you please come pick up a few things that I have in a box? They're at my house. Every time I see them, they make me think of you, and I just need you to come and get them so that they're out of my life and out of my thoughts," or something like that. So I thought, you know what, maybe I'll go by after sushi because he lived really close to the restaurant. Well, it turns out that traffic let up and I arrived in the general vicinity about 15 minutes before we said we would meet up. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna get this out of the way, stop by, get the box, and go eat. So while I'm at my ex's house, I get a call from Lulu and she's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm really close by." And she goes, "It doesn't sound like you're in a car." I was like, "No, I'm actually, I'm at my ex's house, but I'll be there really soon." I didn't explain any further because I figured she's my friend, she's got my back, and I'll explain it to her later. Like, honestly, why do I need to explain it right now? Well, this explains the vibe when I got to that place. I sit down and the first thing I hear Lulu say to Leon is like, "So there's a girl that you like at your work? Oh my goodness, do you have any pictures of her?" And then he shows her one on his cell phone and she's like, "Oh, she's so cute." And I'm thinking like, I'm sorry, you're my friend and you know that we like each other, supposedly. Why are you acting like this? But anyway, I ignored it and just tried to enjoy my time. And then I also remember that day, she kept on telling me that the owner of the restaurant was looking at her and that he always looked at her and that he was in love with her. And I was like, oh man, it must be so tough to be so beautiful. Ha ha ha, whatever. Ironically, I get up to go to the restroom and that day of all days, the owner of the restaurant decides to stop me and say, "Hey, I see you here all the time. You're usually with a guy. I don't know if you're with someone today." And I was like, "Nah." And he's like, "I just wanted to let you know that I have always found you very intriguing. I think you're very beautiful and I'd love to take you out sometime." And I was like, "Thank you very much." And I kind of like brushed it off and went to the restroom and came back. And immediately Lulu was like, "What did he say to you?" And the thing is, I did not feel free to tell her what had really happened. And it's ridiculous. You should feel completely comfortable sharing a story like that with your friend. And it should be amusing and funny and you can laugh about it and move on. But I felt like if I told her that he was hitting on me, A, she would not enjoy hearing that, and B, she might not even believe me. And I really didn't want to enter into that sort of competition with her. It's like, look, if you think he's, you know, got eyes for you, that's great. Like, I don't want to mess with that. Now, a funny follow-up to this story, Leon and I ended up not talking for like a year and a half, and finally we met up again and just sort of chatted a little bit about life, and he brought up the story of going to sushi that night, and you will not believe what happened. As soon as Lulu hung up with me, she said to him, "Hey Leon, did you talk to Holly?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, where did she say she was?" And he goes, "Oh, that she was on Olympic and then there was traffic." And Lulu goes, "Huh. Interesting. I just got off the phone with her. Guess where she is? At her ex's house." That's really bizarre, right? Like, you're my friend. You don't even know why I was there. Why are you doing this? Why are you meddling? Why are you making me out to be a liar when you don't even know the whole story? I mean, yes, I admitted that. I didn't tell him, "Hey, I'm stopping by my ex's house real quick to pick up a box," so that he really understands that I mean it, I'm done. Not my responsibility. And again, I just don't feel like a friend that has your back would do that. There were so many times that she would get offended with me and I didn't even have a clue what I had done. And it felt like she was allowed to get offended, but I wasn't. I don't even remember how many times she deleted me from Facebook. One I remember very strongly because she deleted me from both of my accounts. I've always had like a private account and a more public account. Both of them completely eliminated. I had no idea what I had done. And when I called her to ask her, she was like, "Oh, it must have been a mistake." Yeah, that can't be a mistake if you deleted me on both of my accounts. Trying to keep up with all the ways that I could potentially offend her and trying to do none of it was so exhausting for me. The first conversation with her that ended really badly happened because she had gone to Miami and she had not taken her cell phone, which I found really odd. I think I had texted her and just asking her how she was doing, and she didn't write me back until like a few weeks later saying, "Oh, hey, sorry, I went to Miami, I didn't have my phone." So I called her because sometimes it's easier to just have a conversation than try to go back and forth on text messages. And I was like, "Hey, how was Miami?" And she's like, "Oh, it was fine. We were working with a client, whatever." And I'm like, "How do you do that? Like, go to work and not have your cell phone?" And she's like, "I don't talk with anyone, okay?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Nobody calls me." And I'm like, "Don't lie." Trying to say that like people like her and people look for her, people like me. And she goes, "Did you just call me a liar, Holly?" And I'm like, well, no, I mean, I'm trying to say that people do call you. And she's like, no, I actually don't talk to dudes. In parentheses, like you do. I'm sure she was thinking, because I actually believe in having guy friends. And I was super taken aback with this attitude of just defensiveness. And so I was like, hey, calm down. I'm not Raul. I'm not trying to throw anything in your face. And she goes, you know what? I have no reason to tolerate anyone calling me a liar, much less you. Boom! And she hangs up on me. After getting hung up on for no reason, I was like, you know what? No, I am not going to try to fix this. I'm not going to call her back. I'm not going to text her back. We will just see what happens. And after a few days, she tried to act like things were fine and say, I forgive you, peleonera, which means like fighter, like drama queen type of thing. And I'm thinking like, I was not the one turning that into a fight. I was the one trying to make things okay. I was the one trying to tell you that people actually like you. You were the one that was making this a whole dramatic ordeal. But whatever, I got over it, I moved on, and I was there for her when she called me, sobbing, to let me know that she had been hit by Raul. Yes, she had bruises on her body, and she sent me pictures. I'm sitting there at the airport, about to fly for work, listening to my friends sob on the phone, receiving text message after text message with pictures of her bruised body, telling her to please go to the police, and listening to her say, no, I don't want anything to happen to him. I love him. It is so hard to know what to do, how to be a good friend in a moment like that. What is it gonna take if you're not gonna react when a guy physically hurts you, assaults you, takes advantage of the fact that he's bigger and stronger than you? And that's not gonna make you wanna end things for good. That's not gonna make you wanna alert the police so that he doesn't do that to someone else. Then what's it gonna take? A few months after that, I met up with her on Melrose and I showed up with another friend. And Lulu had one of these sly, undecipherable smirks on her face. And I honestly had no idea what she was up to. But anyway, we were enjoying our food, this and that, and all of a sudden my friend goes, oh, is that a diamond ring? And she's like, yeah, Raul proposed yesterday. And I would have loved to see my face because honestly, I'm not good at hiding my emotions. And how am I supposed to feel excited about you getting engaged to a guy that basically beat you? It was such a horrible feeling because I'm seeing my friend smile and she's really happy, but I know that deep down you can't fully be happy when you know the state of your relationship. And it was shortly after that our friendship crumbled. I remember what kicked it all off was me going to Orange County to get my hair done. And for those of you that know LA, you know that it's basically a field trip to go all the way down to Orange County. So I told her, hey, I'm gonna be heading your way, next Thursday or whatever. Maybe we can hang out later. And she was like, yeah, I'd love that. I'd love for you to come over to my house. And here's another really weird thing. She never, ever wanted to reveal her address to me. And it was like, dude, I'm your friend. Like, what do you think I'm gonna do with that information? But that day she had said, I'm living with Raul now, so just come over to his house and we'll hang out and we'll go to the pool. And I was not too fascinated with that idea, as you can imagine. But I said, hey, when I'm done with my hair appointment, we'll, see if we can meet up or something like that. Cool, great, awesome. It was a tentative plan. And I do think that I had said I'd call her, but hey, it ended up being that when they finished my hair, it was like 9 p.m. I was too tired, I was not in the mood, and I didn't call her. So yeah, my bad. I kind of dropped the ball on that one. But again, it happens. I mean, she could have followed up too and been like, hey, where are you at? Do you want to meet up still? Anything like that. That did not happen. So I kind of forgot about it. A few weeks went by. I was busy with work, whatnot. And I ended up meeting up with one of our mutual friends. We're going to call her Susie. She's awesome. Lulu met her through me, so her and I were a lot closer than her and Lulu. And one of the first things she said to me when we met up was, hey, so you and Lulu aren't friends anymore? And I was like, well, that's news to me. And she's like, yeah, she said that you guys don't talk anymore and that you stood her up or something. And I'm sitting there like trying to go back in my head to when I could have possibly ever stood her up. And then I'm like, oh, Newport Beach. I think Susie saw my face and realized that I was hurt and frustrated and kind of realized maybe she shouldn't have said anything, which I disagree with completely. I think that people should be responsible for what they say. And if you're saying hurtful things about someone, then you need to deal with the consequences. So I asked Susie for more details and she was like, well, I really honestly don't want to get involved. And I said, no, I really need to know what she said about me so that I can figure out how to proceed. she ended up telling me that it was a text message conversation, and I basically pleaded for her to let me see it, and she finally obliged. Well, I got to see all the words that Lulu wrote about me. Not fun. And definitely there was no way to pretend that this was a misinterpretation. I read them myself. It was not coming through any sort of filter. And basically what she was saying was A, I have way too many friends to even remember her anyway. B, I stood her up. And C, what an interesting coincidence that every year around this time, I stopped talking to her. And I'm sitting there thinking, what are you talking about, dude? Like, seriously, what are you talking about? At that time, I worked at a radio station, and every year around the end of summer, they would organize this huge concert with like 12 different artists. And I would only get one pair of tickets for myself, even though I was giving out tickets all day on air. And coincidentally, for the last 2 years, she had been my +1. So I honestly don't understand how you can go off saying that every year I stop talking to you around the time when I specifically take you to this concert that everybody's asking for tickets for. Non sequitur. There's just no truth to that statement, and it makes no sense. And it really, really frustrated me. But what frustrated me even more was the sentiment behind it. The fact that neither of us could talk to each other for 2 weeks, and I'm sitting here thinking that everything's fine, and she's sitting here basically throwing our friendship in the trash can. How is that something that a friend does? With my friends, I don't care if I call you every day for 2 weeks and you don't answer. I'm still not throwing our friendship in the trash until I see what's going on with you. I worry about you actually, and I wonder if everything's okay. But I certainly wouldn't, just out of the blue, without even trying to contact you, decide that we're not talking because you forgot to follow up when you said you would call me. I may be a lot of things, but a hypocrite I am not. So I waited for my blood to simmer down, and I picked up the phone and called Lulu. I was shaking, I remember. But I decided to stand firm and tell her everything that was on my mind. It didn't take me that long. I said, hey, I finally realized that what we have is toxic and that you are not a friend to me. I always try to have your back and be there for you, but you can't do the same for me. And before I could even finish what I was going to say, she was like, well, you're not a friend either. And you know what? You're really bad at taking criticism. And I said, you're right. I cannot take criticism, and that's something I'm working on. I wonder if she ever noticed the irony of me accepting the criticism. Whatever. I don't know what else was said, but we hung up shortly after, and I remember my blood ran cold. And I could not believe that somebody that I had spent so much time with, a relationship I had put so much energy into, it had all just disappeared with a poof. You know, when I was younger, I really did think that we could and should be friends with every single person that crossed our path. Give them our time, our love, our sympathy, the benefit of the doubt. Try to understand them, be flexible with them, always look inside to see if something's not working, what we're doing wrong, how we can do better. And I think those are beautiful things to share with someone. But it's also important to be a little bit more selective of who we're going to be sharing those things with. And I'm not trying to say that Lulu's a bad person. I actually think she's a really beautiful person, and I still care for her very, very much. I remember that every year after we had our breakup, she would write me on my birthday and say the sweetest things. That she loved me and thought of me often and missed me. And I always responded, telling her that I loved her, that I wished her the very best, that I hoped she was doing so well. But I never said that I missed her, because I did not miss all the drama that she brought to my life. Part of me would love to know what I could have done better. I know I wasn't a perfect friend. I honestly don't know what the right thing to do would have been in the situation. And I'm really grateful that I had that friendship for everything it taught me, but at the same time, I'm also really glad that I ended it when I did.